Welcome to Bay State Golf. I'm Sean Melia. I'm trying to play every golf course in the state of Massachusetts. That's 9 holes, 18 holes, public and private. Since June of 2020, I've checked off 151 different courses out of about 350. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a course spotlight, look at one specific course that I've played now twice. Played it most recently in May, have some footage of it, and thought I would share some of my thoughts, go through what the identity of the golf course is. If you'd like to just kind of follow along my quest, this is a great place to start. You can subscribe and like this video. You can also go to baystategolf.beehive.com. I do a bunch of writing there, have a free Friday newsletter. It's another way for you to just know what I'm up to every week. And finally, my Instagram is baystate_golf. Always posting over there, sharing lists of golf courses and just kind of putting a bunch of my footage and videos and photos together in a bunch of different ways to share out what I've learned so far in this 5-year-long quest. So New England Country Club is actually on land that was used since 1903 for golf. Woonsocket Country Club was the original course. But in the 1980s, Hale Irwin and Gary Kern came in and redesigned the whole golf course, and it reopened as New England Country Club in 1990. New England Country Club is a par 71. The tips stretch out to about 6,400 yards. The one-up tees from there are about 6,100 yards. I think the identity of New England Country Club is that it is a tree-lined, challenging golf course with good greens, some thick rough, at least when I played it in May, and always blind tee shots. There's a bunch of shots and tee shots where you want to know your lines off of a lot of the tees, and also what club you want to hit, because there are some cross hazards and some spots where hitting driver might get you into some trouble. The golf course is walkable, but it is a good, tough walk. There are some long stretches between holes, and particularly getting from the 9th green to the 10th tee is a long walk. Even just getting from the driving range up to the first tee is another long walk. So there's some long trips. It's a little hilly, but it's not a lot of big climbs, just some longer walks between some holes, but absolutely a course you can walk. The last piece of the golf course's identity is that they do pride themselves on just having a well-conditioned golf course. The greens are in good shape and they are interesting to putt, so that's a nice little combination. There are some spots, especially on the back nine, where it can get a little bit of wet during rainy seasons. I think that's also why the rough was so thick the day that I played it in May. Just kind of tough to get mowers into some certain spots. But overall, a well-conditioned golf course with good tee boxes and good greens to play off of on every hole. I want to highlight 3 golf holes. These are not necessarily the best golf holes. They're not necessarily my favorite golf holes, but they are 3 that will probably leave you talking after the round with your buddies about, maybe the ones that you think about on the drive to New England Country Club if you've already played the golf course. The first one is the 4th hole. It is a 521-yard par 5 from the tips. It's a massive dogleg with a big drop off that can kind of wreak havoc with players who either get out of position off the tee or just want to lay up in general, because it kind of sits in that middle ground of 150 yards or so, 200 to 150 yards. So you've got to be pretty careful with how you lay up if you want to do that on the hole. Played with sometimes with people who have laid up on the top of the hill to have just a clear view down and know that they're going to be able to find their ball. It's just basically thick rough and some rocks on that big downslope. I think this hole kind of slows up pace of play a touch, because if you get in the fairway and you hit a good one, you can reach the green in 2. The green is long and kind of narrow, so you've got to have a good sense of your distances going into the green. There's a bunker that guards the right side. It's a 2-tiered green. So just overall, a hole that you can definitely make a birdie on. It's a hole that you could be in a big trouble on. Definitely one that, as you're having a beer after the round, you might talk about and rehash how you played it. It could maybe even ruin your round or get you off on a good start to the round. The 8th hole is 421 yards from the tips. It is another dogleg, tree-lined hole, a pretty tricky tee shot, and that's probably what people will talk about after the round. It's one of those shots where if you hit a good one, the payoff is potentially one of the better payoffs on the golf course, along with a tee shot on the fourth. To hit a good one there and to have the second shot on 4 and 8 with a clear view of the green is kind of a bonus. The 8th hole, you could hit driver, you could hit a 3-wood, you could hit hybrid. The key is you have to beat the corner of the dogleg because it gets pretty tricky if you don't. The payoff is you get a really nice second shot. It's a little bit downhill. It's a mid-iron, maybe a short iron. There's a creek that meanders across just the front of the green. There's marshy land behind the green. It's kind of a cool view and a neat shot into that green complex. And another hole that can definitely make or break a round. It's one that as you're driving to the golf course, you might be thinking about because you've either played the hole well or it's bitten you in the butt before. So the 8th hole, a good challenging par 4. It's not, again, these are not my favorite holes. I think this hole has some flaws to it just as far as the requirement off the tee and how kind of precise you have to be with that tee shot. There could be a little bit more space out there to play to give more people the second shot that is kind of a nice one into that green. Then the 3rd hole that I'm picking out here is the 14th. This hole stands out to me mainly because you play really 10 through 13. You might keep driver in the bag on every one of those holes. 11 is a par 5, so maybe you hit driver there. But you get to the 14th and you've kind of had the driver in the bag a little bit. The golf course in general feels pretty tight and tree-lined. 14 is a little bit more open. It's a downhill tee shot, so you feel a little bit freer swinging the driver. And if you hit a good one, the ball will roll down the fairway. You could have a wedge in, you could have a short iron in. Of course, if you spray it a ton, you're going to be up in some trees and having to chip out. But overall, a good hole, a good kind of reset with the driver. And you can hit driver again a couple times if you want as you come home too. So hitting a good one on 14 kind of maybe set the tone for the rest of the round. So like every golf course, there are things that could be improved, room for improvement, room for growth, whatever we want to call it. I think in this case at New England Country Club, the routing is a little bit distracting because of some of the odd walks. They've actually rerouted this golf course. Right now you tee off on the first hole, which is up by the parking lot close to the clubhouse. There's no putting green up there, and you just kind of walk to the tee and you're off and you're running. You play 1 through 9 and they are close together. That part of the walk feels pretty normal. But then from 9 to 10 is a very long walk. When I played, I was walking. I was playing with some guys who were riding. I finished 9 as quickly as I could to just start walking before my playing partners had finished the hole. I told them, like, I'm gonna start walking. You basically walk the 9th hole backwards and then continue and walk across the driving range to the 10th tee. So that's a little bit of a long walk. That is the longest on the golf course. The routing also kind of starts oddly with that first hole because they have a really nice grass range. They have a putting green down in that same area near the current 9th tee box and the 10th tee box. So the golf course used to start on 9 and players would play 9 and then the first hole now was the second hole and you'd play 2 through 8. And the current 8th hole was the 9th hole, which makes sense too. It's kind of right next to the 18th green. So that part of the routing just feels a little bit scattered, and I'm not sure what the reason was for changing it. And maybe it's just they wanted people up by the clubhouse after playing 9 holes. If you finished and you only want to play 9, or they want to get people into the clubhouse to grab a snack or a drink on the way to 10. But that part for me was a little bit distracting. I'm not quite sure the reasoning behind why they chose to change those. And then the last part for me, and it's always a bummer when an 18th hole kind of falls flat, but this 18th hole with kind of a cool green and a really tough second shot is made harder just because of the way the fairway and the rough line are mowed on kind of down in the landing zone off that tee shot. The hole slopes really hard from left to right, And as the ball kind of tumbles down to the right, you end up in the rough and you end up kind of under a canopy of trees. And then the green has water left and kind of wrapping around the front of the green. So you're left hitting a shot that is, you got to aim left, which means you're aiming at the water and trying to hit a slice or a fade to try to get it onto the green. You can't punch it up because there's water in the front. So there's something about just that angle that it creates on that second shot. If you hit your tee shot, I mean, you can hit it in the center of the fairway and end up being blocked out by trees because your ball rolls all the way down. And like I said, the rough, when I played it, was pretty thick. So that's kind of one piece for me. It's such a kind of a thrilling finisher, just the way the way the green is revealed as you walk down the 18th fairway. But we kind of noticed just a lot of people were down in that right side as we played, and then as groups behind us finished as well. So that is a little nitpicky, but for a good golf course with a couple nice holes at the end, for that to be the way you possibly finish is feel like you hit a good tee shot and then you're down there and you're possibly hitting your second in the water just because you're under a tree or you're blocked out by trees doesn't quite sit right for me. Overall, New England Country Club is a really solid option for folks who live out in the Bellingham area. It has a grass range, it has a good clubhouse, and feels like a higher end public golf course. If you're looking for a challenging course that is well conditioned with some good greens that are interesting to hit shots into and to also putt on, then this is a really good course. It's also a course that, be warned, can take driver out of your hands because of cross hazards, because of kind of some narrow, tight dog legs, and so a little bit of target golf in that respect. If you live close and you want to go try it out and you're willing to fork over a little extra cash on a weekend, give it a whirl. I wouldn't tell you not to, but it is just a little bit more money. Weekday golf at New England Country Club feels kind of like a really nice deal at $80. So that is kind of my spotlight on New England Country Club. If you have some thoughts about New England Country Club, put them in the comments. If you've played it, recently, I played it about a month and a half ago, let me know. And also would love to hear of other courses you would like me to do a video like this, and just talking about one specific course, a little bit of a deeper dive, and letting some thoughts marinate instead of just rushing through a recap like I do at the end of every month. So thanks again for subscribing. Thanks again for liking this video specifically. And also make sure, once again, to check out my Instagram, baystate_golf, and my newsletter, baystategolf.beehive.com. And we will see you next time here on Bay State Golf.